my job is just to be constantly talking to them and figuring out where they are. And when they shift from selling to buying, I want to be there with something to sell. When they shift from buying to selling, I want to be there to be able to buy something. That's how you start building these relationships, and you start creating a pipeline of buyers who can buy every month, not like trying to hunt for a new buyer every single month. We talk about it week to week. You guys hear me with this all the time, but you got to remember that, and you touched on this before, the two pieces. You got to remember that these are just human beings. These are just people you're trying to talk to, right? So if you run your marketing and what you're doing from your lists to your conversations, if you run that understanding that these are just people you're trying to connect with, that's the first thing you nail. Because too many of the processes are designed the wrong way. Instead of like, this is a human I'm trying to get in touch with. How do I do that the best way? And then get on the phone and have a conversation with them. Second piece of that is get on the phone and have a conversation with them. I see too many people shy away from like, well, they said this over text. So like, I don't want to waste my time, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're not doing deals, but you're sitting there like, I don't want to waste my time. Like, the nicest way I could say this is quit right now, get out of the game. Because the real thing I want to say is fuck you. Like, there's all these people doing all this work and you're like, I don't even want to call these people. Like, that is the worst attitude to have in this game, and it's not going to work. And Phil's telling you right now from his experience, like, the second you just open yourself up to, I just want to talk to more people, that's when you start doing more deals. And Phil, extend that too, because I know you're doing this as well. Extend that to what we've talked about here week in, week out, like pulling the list of investors in your market and just calling them and starting to have conversations. What's going on? You know, how's business? Are you buying? Are you selling? What do the properties look like? You know, you're doing this right now. I believe we talked about it. You know, you have a big buyer you're working with, but you're also using those kind of lists to find the other buyers so that, hey, when buyer A doesn't want it, I have 3 other people I can line up.
That's right. And keep that in mind, guys. When you're doing your marketing with SMS, you're going to come up, you're going to be hitting a lot of LLCs. You're going to be hitting corps. You're going to be hitting trusts. And it's with Peter's data, you know, obviously with Peter with Direct Skip. I mean, guys, the data is just incredible. So you if you're using any other data source, you know, me being a customer, I've used just about every single data source you could possibly imagine, from ProLead Zone to Batch to oh my God, I mean, there's so many others I've used, and there is not one other skip trace platform that I've ever used that's been able to pull as many LLCs, accurate phone numbers for LLCs, corporations, even trusts. And trusts are supposed to be private, so it's kind of crazy that
the trusts are kind of crazy.
Yeah, the trusts are really crazy. I've had one guy say, "Hey, man, you know, I think my attorney screwed up," and you know, so it was just really weird. He goes, he was very surprised I was able to get his phone number, but we had a good conversation, right? And that's what we want to do. That's the goal here. Peter, I kind of went off track here. What was your question?
Well, no. So I mean, I just, you know, highlighting back to having the conversations, right? So just by going in and saying like, okay, I'm just going to call. Again, I think too many people are afraid to do this. I don't know why. You know, you and I don't know why, because it's so easy for us. But if you're struggling with this, you just got to like force yourself to do it. Pull the list of the investors in the zip code you're trying to move deals in.
Yeah.
And pull it and call them. And you know, your sidetrack there. I appreciate the plug. I think everybody here is on Direct Skip. If you're not, reach out to me. We'll get you on there. But yes, that's one of the big edges of why I built the platform, was because it's so, to me, it was crazy that you could be operating in a market and anybody who's a smart investor is going to be buying in an LLC. So if you can't talk to the people who are the most active in the market, how are you ever, as a wholesaler who's trying to dominate, how are you ever going to have complete knowledge and control of what's going on in that market if you're not able to reach those investors? Like I didn't understand it, right? So that was one of the biggest challenges. Now you have to understand how to use it the right way. You're using it because you're like, I'm an investor in this market. Let me see what everybody else is doing, right? Let me see what's happening with these buyers and these sellers. And understanding, guys, we've talked about this a couple times, but remembering that with real estate investors, we call it the Bush effect, BUSH, right? So every real estate investor is in at least one, usually 2 of these 4 stages at all times: buying, unsure, selling, or holding, right? So they're sitting in 1 to 2 of those boxes at all times, right? So knowing that, if you put that in your head, you're like, okay, well, if that's the case, then my job is just to be constantly talking to them and figuring out where they are. And when they shift from selling to buying, I want to be there with something to sell. When they shift from buying to selling, I want to be there to be able to buy something. That's how you start building these relationships, and you start creating a pipeline of buyers who can buy every month, not like trying to hunt for a new buyer every single month. So